Alright, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. Unpause and repause, and hopefully today, no tech difficulties. Quite a bit of news today. It's it's not a slow news day. I like the fast-paced ones better because I can always hold over anything for the next day, and so it just sort of makes sense. So we'll get right into it. The government is shut down. Some Democrats may already want to cave. Yes, indeed, their lines are breaking, and this is good for the nation. It looks like the Republicans, generally speaking, are probably going to, in the end, get their way, which is good because we don't need to extend the Romney Care subsidies that have been imposed on the nation, which we'll be talking about Bernie Sanders separately and his mythology with regards to the massive rise in premiums as a result of the Trump administration. Saw some replies in there. They were blaming Trump for high grocery prices and things like that. You look at the inflation rate over time, you'll see that's quite literally not true. There is no way to construe that data as implicating Trump on the high price of groceries and things like that. Well, I would like a prolonged period of deflationary politics, and while Trump had delivered that in his first term, by the way, on a number of quarters, that may be a little bit too much to ask given the amount of economic damage done. I'm hoping that he acts proactively there. We've got Greta Thunberg getting detained by the Israelis. I am not Team Israel, but I can appreciate detaining the Commie, the autistic Commie, and find that to be hilarious. And I'm hoping that they don't actually deport her. Supposedly, she's supposed to be deported back to her native cold land of, I don't know, Sweden, I guess it was, or something like that. I think that they should just send her to Gaza. She wants to be there so badly. Force her through, close the gate behind her, problem for everyone solved. Benjamin Netanyahu would probably be hailed as a hero in most of the Western world were he to do that, by the way. Democrats should argue that Trump has turned the GOP into the CCP. Yes, they are still going with this line. After failing to drum up the concept of MAGA communism, that never really took hold, they decided on a more audacious plan, which is to label Trump a communist. Yep, Donald Trump, the communist. Well, the fascism title isn't working anymore. Quick, let's drive a wedge between MAGA Republicans and Rhino Republicans by calling him a communist, because that makes a whole lot of sense. Bernie Sanders then weighing in, of course. Healthcare is already unaffordable. We cannot allow premiums to skyrocket by 75% for millions of Americans. That's what this struggle is about. His camp, I suppose. Of course, if you look at the chart, you'll notice it's fairly linear and dates back to the early 2000s. That includes, by the way, both Obama and Biden in that total. So Bernie Sanders really stepped in it on that one. Man accused of cruelty after secretly spicing girlfriend's spaghetti, sparking backlash. This is the sort of mental aptitude of the average Redditor, by the way. This is a Reddit thread, apparently. I don't know why that site is even taken seriously for the purposes of news reporting. I'm assuming that they were scraping the bottom of the barrel with regards to this one. And then Jane Goodall has died, unfortunately. She was a big-time conservationist, also really cute back in the 1960s. Just saying. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. She worked with chimpanzees especially, but primates in general, and contributed a great deal to that field, actually. We might get to some other news, Musk with Netflix, the Nepalese story there with their virgin princess, and also Hegseth's speech getting panned by MSNBC, no surprise there. We may or may not get to that. Probably not. Here has crystallized. Stay Gaza has suffered enough, why send them Greta? Because, I mean, do you really want her to be in the Western world? And she's clearly gung-ho for Palestine. Let her live there. She'll quickly see how women's rights are treated in such a region. Again, you don't need to be pro-Israel. I'm not. I don't give a shit about Israel or Palestine, actually. I'm Team America. But, you know, when somebody is just being nonsensical and attention whore, which is what Greta Thunberg is, then that's, you know, just desserts, I suppose. You want to be over there so bad and give aid to people? You can. You're allowed to go into Gaza. Nobody's going to stop you. You think that the Israelis give a shit? They just want you off their territory. If you go into Gaza, I don't think they'd have any problem with that. It's like feminists that ramble about microaggressions in like the United States, Canada, Western Europe, places like that. Oh my God, you were man-spreading on the subway train because, you know, you had a big cock, you had big fucking balls, and you can't fold your legs in the normal way, so you gotta go like this. You've got a wide stance, like that one Republican member of Congress back in, I believe it was 2005, that got in trouble for that, tapping his feet, trying to get gay favors. And everyone knows that was what he was doing, by the way. You know, they'll ramble about that, but they won't say anything about Saudi Arabia. They won't say anything about Hamas. They won't say anything about Iran. They're not interested in talking about that. I wonder why. I say we take all of the radfems and we put them in a flotilla. And we say, we broker with Israel. We're like, they want to enter Gaza with supplies and stuff. Let them go. You know, we'll even run a counter blockade with the U.S. Navy. You're going to take them. These people are going to be in that country from now on. That would be hysterical. Yeah, Larry Wide stance Craig. Yes, exactly. I remember that. Tarred and Feathered. 11 has too much telemetry and sticky spyware. It is possible. I'm using Windows 11 right now. It is possible to lock it down and prevent it from updating. And you have to go through a lot of rigmarole to do this, but you can prevent it from updating without your consent. You can prevent it from doing basically anything. It just takes an order of magnitude more time than with Windows 10. Windows 10, ultimately, stable platform, fairly easily locked down. You can make it like Windows 7 fairly easily. You can get tutorials online. You know, you've got to look up videos by people from India mainly to do that. But it takes like maybe 20 minutes tops. With Windows 11, it takes more like a couple of hours. It's retarded. Kina says, Sticks. That is indeed my name. The Great Awakening. Andy Griffith is on. Yeah, Andy Griffith was great. You know, Andy Griffith really should have dated the redneck girl, the hillbilly girl, instead of going with the teacher, Opie's teacher. That's what I think, at least. I don't know. When I was watching it as a kid, I was like, well, the hillbilly girl seems like the one that I would have chosen. You know, lots of gardening, shooting skeet and stuff like that. Sounds fun. I can't remember the name of the actress from that. Who played the actress from that? Sometimes I get distracted. Yeah, there were the Darlings of Charlene Darling. But that was her name in the actual show. What was the name of that yeah, Charlene Darling was Maggie Peterson. Extremely cute 50s, 60s actress. Just saying. Yeah, I would have gone off with the Hillbilly Darlings if I was Andy Griffith. That would have been the safer bet. Fireburn, I'm staying with 10 forever. Yeah, 10 is more easily retrofitted. 11 is doable, but it takes a lot more steps. So let's get to the first news story here. The government is shut down. Some Democrats may already want to cave. Who could have thought that that would be a thing? The Democrats right now, I think, realize that they walked into a trap. Number one, because now Trump can unbridle the executive branch and cut bureaus and wasteful spending. Number two, he has no particular reason to rush these proceedings. The Republicans simply have to hold rank, and eventually enough Senate Democrats will come around whereby you can pass something that is a negotiated deal. It should not, in the end, include financial assistance for states that are giving health care to illegals. That should not be a thing. That should be a red line, and Trump and the GOP leadership in general should come out right now and say, look, there will be no negotiation on this. We're not willing to negotiate on this. It's unfair. It makes no sense. It's costly. It doesn't work. So, you know, if you want to negotiate on other provisions, maybe we can have a discussion. But on this particular one, we're just going to hold our ground because the American people are not in favor of what you're pushing. And they're not. Try as they might, the Democrats right now, rudderless as they are, with their leader basically being Chuck Schumer. He's the face of the goddamn party. Do you really think that he's, number one, interested in negotiating a deal that doesn't give him 99% of what he wants, despite the fact that he doesn't hold the House, Senate, or presidency for his party? And number two, do you think that he's effective at messaging? Look at Gavin Newsom's attempt to take the sombrero meme and make it his own. It just, It's cringe. It's terrible. I mean, it's worse than Elizabeth Warren's meme team. I don't know what staffer decided to put this out, but they should be fired with regards to Gavin Newsom's latest thing there. Basically, you put an America hat and like a vest, and I'm not sure exactly what it says, onto a cheaply made meme, and then you raise the voice, the vocals, you make them seem more like chipmunk mode. And that's apparently the comedic foil. Yeah. That's the comedic foil that Gavin Newsom has in mind. He's very strategic. Yeah. Oh yeah, Barack Obama. Remember his gross gray undercooked burgers? I can't say that on a YouTube live stream. Yeah, Chuck Schumer attempted and failed to make burgers actually as well. You do realize you're supposed to put the cheese on the burgers after they're already cooking. You're not supposed to put it on the burgers when they're raw. He didn't get the memo. Wow, I'm making burgers for my family. What a photo op. Yeah, I'm sure that you served those up hot and ready. Dude, that cheese would be like basically a blackened crust by the time you turn it over, so I don't understand. I'm making burgers for my family. No, you're not. No, you're making a photo for, the 4th of July, I think it was, or something like that. Nobody was taken in. Even liberals like, I don't know about that one. Let's get to our sponsors really quickly, though, before we get to the hilarious news with regards to Greta Thunberg. And we prescribe methods to finally silence her because, really she just babbles and flaps her hands around anyway. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills, which I take every day. In fact, I'll take another one. I didn't take any of the radiant energy. I took the brain square, actually, earlier. They can get you mushroom supplements. They are dual extracted for your benefit. Made with lion's mane, chaga, reishi, oyster, and other goodies. And they are very helpful as far as energy and focus goes. Now, it's available for doggos, too. Yes, indeed, there are doggo snacks from them as well, and they are highly in demand. Again, as I've pointed out multiple times, the dog just stared at the bag longingly for an extended period of time. It was really, really funny. You know the one meme where the dog's staring at the plate of muffins, and it's just straight up staring, and it has the 1,000-yard stare, basically? It's sort of like that. I got water down the wrong way. Whoops. We've got BiltongUSA.com as well. Whenever we mention Anton's fine products, we must have some. Delicious. Right at the bottom, a little bit of it's not salt, whatever it is, congeals and makes it extra strong. So the last little scrape is definitely the best. We've also got other imported goods. Various meats, Wagyu, Biltong, we've got Cabanassi, we've got Angus, we've got venison, bison, all sorts of good stuff. Also, Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts are available. He's moving and increasing his location, so I'm very, very happy about that. And finally, jamnbean.com. That is jamnbean.com. You can get a variety of teas available there. You've got Yunnan Jig, my personal favorite. The Healer, Friendship Tea, those are really great. Jolly Peach, all of those, as well as Clanker Coffee. I'm going to have to tie into this at some point because I'm running low on the other bag, so I'm running out. Oh my god. I need my caffeine sometimes, Delicious stuff. By the way, use code STICKS on all of these sites for a discount. Cooking Inferno, but with Greta. Get her going in bed so she babbles and flaps her arms. Job well done. Remember, beauty is only a light switch away. How many of the dudes on those ships do you think she fornicated with, by the way? Since they were out at sea for a couple of months. How many times did they fornicate? I have a feeling that she's actually asexual more than anything else. She seems to be the sort of person whose sexuality is money more than anything else. Money and clout. She's a clout seeker. Zoan. All the biltong is good, but Wagyu is my favorite. Yeah, the sliced Wagyu is really, really great. If you make like a noodle soup and you put it in there with some scallions and some tamarind, actually works well with it. And you can also use some nice and sweet and sour pork. And if you pile that all in, it's pretty good. Yeah, so Greta Thunberg is probably getting railed in the ass, Right now, she's, I think, still currently detained. But keep in mind with this flotilla, keep in mind that the amount of aid that they were bringing was peanuts. They dumped some of it, actually. There's a video of one of the dudes on board one of the ships saying, oh, we're going to dump this in the ocean. It's got, like, baby formula and shit like that. We're going to dump it in here in case we get illegally boarded by the Israelis. No shit, there's a blockade going on. You're going to get boarded. I mean, you could fight back if you want to. You can always bring weapons. I'm sure that the Turks would be willing to arm you. That'd be a hysterical shootout, by the way. It'd be more effective. But that would require effort. Running through a blockade is a little bit different from just saying to the entire world, hey, we intend to be here at a certain time, and then dare people to board you. Of course they're going to fucking board you. There's nothing you can do about it. You think that those ships and your pea shooters are going to do anything against a destroyer? Not going to do jack shit. You're not going to do jack shit. This was a publicity stunt. You don't have to be pro-Israel. Or certainly you don't have to be anti-Palestinian or consider their suffering to be a good thing to understand that this is nothing more than a photo op by a rich white girl whose family is worth millions of dollars. That's literally all that this was. They got together with left-wing antagonistic groups, and these are leftists, by the way, in order to run the blockade and try to get through it. But they weren't really trying to get through it. None of this aid is ever going to get to any Palestinian. All they wanted to do was have photos and a sob story to feed to the other leftoids who are like, oh, you're so brave. You're so magical. Oh, you're trying to help the Palestinians and the evil Israelis are trying to stop you. It's basically nothing more. What they should have done is just drop a bunker buster above the whole fucking flotilla and just sunk it into the goddamn sea and then dared anyone to do anything about it. They should have just bombed the flotilla. They should have made with them like they did with the USS Liberty. At least this time it would be justified, now wouldn't it? Well, it was a mistake. We thought that these were Hamas vessels or something. I mean, some of them are owned by Hamas, but whatever. Spike, I would rather use a fish than Greta. Don't want any retard on my stuff. Yeah, some people were thirsty for her, and I never quite understood it. I'm like, why? Is it because when you're getting a blowjob, she'll contort her mouth in just the right way? Sigil, yar, she be as beautiful as a mermaid after many months on the open sea, yar, lads have taken to calling her Princess He-Man due to her hair, yar. Oh, King of Biltong is here. I have to scrape the last little bit, therefore. Bow right out. It's empty. Doesn't take long. Kim Adams, another stick shit take. How is it a shit take? I'm saying that it would be hilarious if the flotilla had been bombed into the sea, because then a bunch of antagonistic leftoids would be dead. Israel will have done something absolutely positive for a change. I do not support the war in Gaza. I also don't support Hamas. I think they're all morons. I think that they should be left to their own devices. But if Israel were to throw Greta over into the Gaza Strip and close the doors behind her, I don't think that the world would really lose anything. It'd be the best thing for it, my man. Patch Christ, is Styx wearing a fur coat? No, it's just a robe. It's cold, what can I say? It's that time of year. I'm in Vermont. If I was down in Texas, I'd be sitting here shirtless and sweating, probably. Here, it's a little bit different. This is more like during the winter months, it looks like Skyrim sometimes. Yeah, take Greta Thunberg, and after repeated provocations, let's just, let her live in Gaza. She really loves the people there. Let her find out about women's rights over in the Gaza Strip. It won't be long before she has a change of mind and is begging to be extracted. And then don't extract her, say, yeah, you made your bed, lay in it. I don't think that she would find a warm reception there or in Israel at this point. I think she'd be harassed everywhere she goes. Patch Christ, thank God Styx isn't in Texas. I've been there before, really loved it. Thought about moving to the Port Isabel area. So you get low prices, but you're right across the water from South Padre Island, which also actually is really, really cheap. The Ramada Inn there is still $35 a night. After all of these years, I was so surprised when I saw that, at least during the off season. And then you get lots of parties during the on season and good food. Some good shit. Fidevi, bro, why do you remind me of Asmongold? I can't be the only one. Yeah, I've been compared to him, apparently. I like to think that he looks like me, however. I believe I started my career earlier than him. I'm being ripped off. It is a big problem. Yeah, Greta Thunberg is currently detained and or awaiting deportation. Don't deport her. Well, if you want to, deport her, just give her a parachute and airdrop her into Palestine. Cooking Inferno, fuck the Middle East. The good old Greta and her spaz hole sounds like a win-win to me. Yeah, that'd be funny. Anyone want to take one for the team and screw her several times so she fucking calms down? Sigil, well, there's those pictures of Greta with huge juicy titties, but seems those were fake. Yeah, just not into it. I don't understand why people... I'm assuming that most of it was people being facetious, found her attractive. Just saying. Yeah. Greta Thunberg, kidnapped by the Israelis. Their demand was that she literally leave the country. Such a kidnapping. Fireburn, I am indeed 37. Spike, I hear Venezuela is trying to send aid to illegals in the U.S. I wonder if Greta and her band of butt pirates will help. Not only if it becomes something that is culturally relevant. You'll notice Greta Thunberg got her start by rambling about climate change. And when that sort of died down, immediately it was all about Gaza. So she's going to go on, this is a prediction, as soon as the Gaza-Israeli thing is over or simmers down, she's going to move on to the next so-called activism to grift more money. She is a money sponge for her family, she's a fame whore, and the fact that she's severely mentally ill, as she quite clearly is, does not necessarily exonerate her from being interested only in being well-known. That's the only thing that she wants. How dare you? Leave it to Sweden to provide that sort of person, by the way. Goddamn, if I'm going to Scandinavia, I'm going to fucking Norway. I'm not going to goddamn Sweden. What, so I can get a bomb thrown in my face or acid poured on me for having the wrong opinion? Or something like that. I didn't bow at the right time during the call of prayer, so, somebody decided to cut my head off. That's basically how it works. It's nonsensical. Greta Thunberg is literally interested in nothing more than money and fame. That's the only thing. I mean, she's the premier clout seeker. She's sort of like the Sissons and so forth of the world. You've noticed there's this entire generation of young people who get signed up for contracts or partner with other groups simply because they have their 15 minutes of fame and then they capitalize on it. Capitalism. Really, really ironic, by the way. And then they sort of try to create a brand. I wouldn't be surprised if she starts selling made in China all organic wool hoodies or something like that. Fireburn. Finland is better. Almost no people and plenty of forests. Yes, and saunas and all sorts of cool stuff. And energy drinks. Yes, Vinlago. Manchester, UK synagogue just attacked. More cultural enrichment. That was earlier. There was a terrorist attack in the UK. Look for the UK's government to silently cover it up. They'll probably do that. Now, here's the new... they're saying the silent part out loud, by the way, with this one. Here's an example of what the Democrats wish to do over the coming weeks and months. Democrats should argue that Trump has turned the GOP into the CCP. They have already tried to claim that Donald Trump is a communist. This is the course of a long-term, and this is important, this is a long-term strategy. It is not grassroots, it is centrally organized. It is purely strategic. It is paid for by focus groups. The idea is that if you can inject into the minds of people that Donald Trump has overlap with commies, that people who are like core MAGA will start to get off the Trump train. They're trying to weaken him and his administration by claiming that he has something in common with communism, because the term fascist clearly didn't work. Now they've moved on to the term communist. And there are some missteps that he's made, investing in Intel and so forth, that I do not support. But that does not make him a communist. The government does this all the time. If anything, it's a slight left-leaning move within an administration that generally is populistic. We have to be able to criticize the Trump administration for the excesses that it does display, while understanding that it is markedly different from prior administrations going back at least until the early 1980s. That is, that I do not detect any communism in the Trump administration. Communists presumptively would not want a stronger U.S. military. They probably would not want deregulation. They certainly wouldn't want a reduction in overall government power. None of the things that, or anti-censorship maneuvers and things like that, respecting, generally speaking, states' rights outside of federal purview. I would notice that immigration, of course, is widely under federal purview, so it's kind of an apples to oranges situation as far as the 10th Amendment goes. Attempting to seek fair trials. We've had a lot of those lately. The Trump administration is quite clearly not communistic in nature, but they're going to try to astroturf it as though it has something in common with Soviet Russia. Again, this is nothing more than a weird civic projection off of the original Russia mythology, the Russiagate sort of thing. Well, Trump learned well from Putin. Now he's trying to turn the U.S. into the Soviet Union 2.0. Oh, that's fine as long as we get Charkov-Chankas, I suppose. That is a joke, by the way. But that's not reality. They're living in La La Land. This is a goddamn delusion. And I think that I like to believe, and I hope that I'm right and that I'm not just being naive on this one. I'd like to believe that the average liberal also realizes Donald Trump is not a communist. What are you trying to do? Get leftoids to vote for him or something? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's their new strategy. Ronnie, what's your take on leftists equating Charlie Kirk with a Nazi martyr wasted by the commies, Horst Wessel? Well, when people start making songs about Charlie Kirk that are encouraging the uprising of some sort of Germanic priesthood or something like that, then I suppose then it would be apt. Doesn't appear to be happening. The fact is that Charlie Kirk was a garden variety conservative with slightly more moralistic leanings than I personally appreciate, and slightly more right-wing views on like economics and social issues than the rhinos and stuff like that. Fairly innocuous. Fit right in with, effectively, like, core MAGA more than anything else. And it makes absolutely no sense. When they call him a Nazi or a fascist, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They have absolutely no fucking idea what they're talking about. Their idea of history is that they cracked open the Communist Manifesto, and that gives them their history. So they believe that people living 100,000 years ago were all a bunch of communists, and so based on the fact that people who were very primitive and didn't understand the world around them were communists, supposedly this is a ringing endorsement of communism. Actually, they were more just tribalistic and didn't really have an appreciation for sociopolitics, but everyone seems to ignore that. I've been told my hair is glorious today. That's because I showered the other day. I like to shower every other day, and so after one day, it looks really, really good, and the third day it looks pretty good too, and then you shower again, and the first day it doesn't look so great, the second and third day it looks great, so it's sort of what I do. People ask me what I do with my hair. As little as possible. Yes, I use shampoo. That's basically all. I never touch conditioner or anything like that. Turtle's Toy Box. Sticks is stinky. Only after I garden for 5 or 6 hours. Then you have to take a shower, of course. I takes me a shower every Sunday, whether I needs in it or not. Old joke from the spaghetti western period. Holden Sneedmeyer. Rumors of action being taken in Venezuela are appearing after that meeting with all those generals. Military people being called up and told to prepare for service. Look for something in the next week. That would be funny. Now people are going to try to lecture me on hair care. I don't think I have any problems in that department. Just saying. You should use as little as possible on your hair whenever possible. That's my advice. Democrats should argue... Oh, that's the same story. Never mind. Bernie Sanders really waded into it. He's been almost ratioed as a result of this. In fact, I should probably... Here, just give me a second. New tweet up, of course. Yeah, Bernie Sanders doesn't seem to understand how to read a graph. This graph goes from 2000 all the way up until 2024. The cost of healthcare has more than doubled since 2000. Percent change in price of medical care, 2000 to 2024. 121% increase. Can anyone tell me, is there anything else comparable to this that has increased at roughly the same rate? Oh shit, that's right, it's basically everything. Prices in the year 2000 were demonstrably considerably lower than they are now. Bidenflation has taken a toll. The ACA did nothing. This graph shows that the ACA, which the Democrats are holding up the government right now in shutdown for, did absolutely nothing. Look at the goddamn graph. ACA is imposed back here. It continues on its same trajectory. The cost of healthcare remains completely unchanged. If anything, there's been a little bit of slowing of late. That's because hyper-regulation and infinite subsidies are only going to make it more expensive. Just like with college and everything else, the cost is passed on to the consumer. So let's say the government gives $10 trillion zillion dollars to the healthcare industry. They'll just raise their prices accordingly. They're going to take that money back up from the same consumers, and there's nothing that you can do about it. If anything, Bernie Sanders should come out and say, well, the Affordable Health Care Act Obamacare doesn't work. That would be honest, but that would be asking people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Mamdani, all these other morons to actually be honest. Probably not going to happen in our lifetime. I expect to be in the grave before any of these people actually tells the truth. Pallid mask. No way you have Styx hair. It's all curly, right? Mine is wavy. It used to be more straight. Then, for some reason, some years ago, it just turned kind of wavy. I think it looks good. Goes well with the pirate look. Arr, matey. I love also how the left has absolutely no idea whatsoever what to do with the memes that are being made of them. Like, you've got the J.D. Vance fat meme, and then you've got the, muchachos sort of sombrero meme with Trump doing the mariachi band behind Hakeem Jeffries, and they're leading into it. And then Gavin Newsom comes out, tries to, nick the basic idea, and makes like these really cringe memes that aren't really funny. They're completely non-talented, and basically, imitation is the purest form of flattery when you think about it. So you're saying, well, clearly this meme was effectual because I'm trying to replicate it. I didn't do it right. It's basically like looking at some jealous kid in the home ec class, and their compatriot knows how to really bake some good fucking cookies. And they try to steal the homework, and they try to make the cookie their own, but they're just all fucked up. They're all like lumpy with like undissolved dough or something like that. That's basically what Newsom is doing. He's the kid that copied the homework but was too stupid to do it correctly. Just a sec here. Yeah. I was hoping that there would be a couple of extra news topics actually that I could get to. We will get to the other three here once we ridicule Bernie Sanders some more, of course. But, yeah, RCP has not flipped over yet. Sometimes they do by this time of day. I like it when that happens, by the way. Not just a string. Would you mind posting your articles in the description again? I miss the stream sometimes. Farage is going to be hounded by the system like Trump. Happy October, clank. Yeah, I can try to do that, yeah. Sigil, give the Democrats a Hate mace enema, no lube. And if you haven't watched Space King yet, fix that. It's right up your alley. Nice. Spike. It's funny, the CBO originally claimed the ACA would lower healthcare costs. Then, a few years later, it changed to successfully slow down rising costs. The ACA is nothing but a failure. Yeah, it was only meant to hyper-regulate the medical system and lodge itself in there like a cancer in order to take it over and, you know, to make it more legalistic. Holden Sneedmeyer, won't be funny when it splits MAGA again like that Iran nonsense also hands the left a talking point for the midterms. It won't. It's not going to work. Nooner Eclipse, Sticks, what happened to Dreamers? Media Dems forgot, and even Trump was willing to compromise without amnesty in exchange for border security. Yeah, they're not going to want to talk about that too much. It's too much of a sticking point with regards to the border. They abandoned that fucking issue. Randall Flagg, remember when the Bible thumpers pearl clutched and said Halloween is satanic and pagan? I hear this is happening again now that Gen Z is becoming more religious when it's really just Celtic Samhain. Yeah, I mean, what's satanic about putting up pumpkins? And I mean, I will admit, there is one satanic ritual on Halloween, and I must call it out. Using candy corn for any purpose. Candy corn should be banned. It should be outright banned. I say this as a libertarian. Primal Werewolf, I am O negative. Yeah, so Bernie. Cost of healthcare is more than doubled. Yeah, so have the cost of all sorts of other things. You know, if I look at the price of eggs right now, it is definitely more than double what it was in the year 2000. If I look at the gas prices, it's more than double what they were in the year 2000. This is the same for everything. And you can't really blame Trump. He's only been in office for a few months. You should be blaming Joe Biden and Barack Obama. I notice that they're conspicuously absent. The idea that the removal of the ACA is going to increase, premiums or something to a considerable amount is totally wrong. You can look at your own fucking graph and tell that out. Because it was linear even before ACA was passed. Then you have like Newsom posting that stupid infographic. Oh, a Georgian showed this to me today. And here's the price that it was before, and here's the price after. Oh my God, Donald Trump is raising the premium prices massively for seniors. But then, it's not the same plan. The first plan includes a near $500 subsidy. So they're not even the same thing. They're not even comparable. What the hell are you talking about? I suppose that they're hoping that their fans are illiterate. They'll probably get their wish. I would believe it. Here's something that I wanted to weigh in on. Now, this is not particularly hard-hitting news or anything like that. I just wanted to weigh in on my particular beliefs. Man accused of cruelty after secretly spicing girlfriend's spaghetti, sparking backlash. Relationship expert, of course, obviously a Redditor, says spicing woman's meals despite her intolerance signals boyfriend's major issues. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you an interesting anecdotal story, actually, after I get through this. In a post on a popular Reddit community, the girlfriend began by writing that she and her boyfriend have been together for nearly 5 years. We live together and both of us cook every now and then for each other, she wrote. I absolutely cannot handle anything spicy. It just ruins any food for me. Trust me, feed her a raw jalapeno and her heat tolerance will go up. That's what happened to me. Her boyfriend, the woman said, knows this, but still cooks spicy dishes every time he's the chef. Then don't eat it, bitch. He thinks I won't notice because he puts other things in and denies it every time I ask him if he did, she recalled. The user went on to say that on August 24th, the situation reached a breaking point after he was cooking sketties and she asked him not to put anything hot in it. I served myself a bowl and guess what? It was spicy, she wrote. Why do I get a feeling that this is one of those people that thinks that, like, a couple of dashes of chili powder in the bowl is hyper spicy? Why do I get that feeling? When the Redditor approached her boyfriend about it, I'm surprised you have a boyfriend instead of 5 cats. He first blamed the sausage, but then she saw red pepper flakes all over around the pot. You can't take a handful of red pepper flakes? Well, then you've just proven my prediction correct. I told him I was not eating it, she said. I leave the room and he starts yelling at me about how ungrateful I am. The post attracted nearly 1,000 comments, most of which blame the boyfriend. Fuck you! Now, if she doesn't like it, if he's the one taking the initiative to cook, then if you like it, eat it. If you don't like it, don't eat it. Fix yourself something else and stop being a lazy bitch. What is his game plan here anyway? Is he trying to make sure he never has to cook for you? One person asked. Probably, if I was with somebody that was that picky, I probably wouldn't want to cook for them either. This is a control thing. He doesn't seem to like you very much, and he's a liar, another user observed. Not sure how much more you need to know about him to make it obvious that you're in a bad relationship. A few users defended the spice-positive perspective. If all I put in was fucking red pepper flakes, I would say I didn't put in anything spicy, too, one comment read. He told the truth, you're just ridiculously sensitive. I do encourage you to come to the dark side and embrace the burn, a second user said. You'll come to crave it. This is, by the way, true. And, you know, it just goes on and on. This is the typical shit that you get from Reddit. If I'm cooking, I'm going to cook it my way. I will give deference as necessary, depending on what that deference is. Or I'll cook my own fucking food and I'll eat it my fucking self. And you can have the bland shit if you want. If you're eating my food, depending on what I'm cooking, it might have things in it you don't like. It doesn't mean that you bitch me out about it. Of course, it would be a Redditor that has a problem with red pepper flakes, by the way. Yeah, of course it would be. Cooking Inferno. I know how you feel about candy corn. I don't mind it, but the greatest evil that has ever befallen mankind is marzipan candy. I actually don't mind marzipan, but I don't eat sweets, so, you know. Sigil, I'm going to give you one chance to answer correctly, and if you don't, there will be consequences. Does pineapple belong on pizza? Yes. If you want it. It is perfectly acceptable. B-List History. On behalf of my blog, burks.substack.com, I officially claim responsibility for killing at least one piece of gun control in Pennsylvania Congress. Join us. Excellent job. TX47. Boyfriend is a moron. Don't lie. If you are going to be the asshole, be the whole asshole. Yeah, I mean, if I cook you something, if I'm nice enough to cook for you, and you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. That's perfectly fine. But taking to Reddit to whine about it because it was too spicy with red pepper flakes? Seriously? You think that that's spicy? Come on over here for dinner sometime. We'll get you set up. You'll burn out all of your receptors and you'll be able to, like, gobble down habaneros. King of Biltong, looking for some healthy snacks to add to your diet? Try our Biltong! Over 50% protein and packed with B vitamins, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Go to www.biltongusa.com, code STICKS for 10% off. Highly recommended. Sigil, you asked for it, check your DMs. I'm sure you'll send me candy corn pizza or something like that. Yes, I am RH negative. I am O negative. Alright, let's see what Sigil's saying. If it'll load, I can't guarantee that it will. Sometimes I have to refresh it and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I see that. Of course it's candy corn pizza. I'm not surprised. The local Wendigo. I once made a gallon of mead with jalapeno red hot and ghost reaper. Can only drink a half a drink before you feel it heating up your stomach really strongly. I don't know that I would put it in mead. The level of spicy sort of depends on what you're cooking. Like, if I'm doing a chili, I want it to be, I want it to have a good hearty spiciness to it. I'll add chili powder and jalapenos. And some of those Mama Jeanette's peppers, those are really good. You can roast them off beforehand, too. Put them in the chili. If I'm making, something like stew, it doesn't really need a lot of spice. It depends on what you're cooking. Debbie Donovan, deference. Yeah, it's like if you know that somebody's allergic to something, you don't put the allergen in their food. It's the same basic concept. Dr. Jane Goodall has died. She worked for decades and decades with chimpanzees and other apes, mainly chimps though, and did a shit ton of research on them for many, many years and was universally respected. She's sort of like the chimp version of Steve Irwin to crocodiles, so to speak. And, she was very intelligent. I'm sad that she's gone. It's actually funny. I'll give you an anecdote. Sickness and Hell and Morbid Stories and all those books that I'm writing, they were initiated actually by a dream that I could remember when I was still in high school. And the second part of that dream was actually that Jane Goodall, with her chimps with her, had this sort of weird scientific laboratory. It looked sort of like a UFO or like, the dome in New Orleans or something, with glass all over it and like big spires and stuff and lights coming out of it. And it was on the edge of this cliff. And there was a sheer drop on the side of the cliff with loose rocks and stuff. And I was going in there, I think, to look at the chimpanzees, I guess, or something. And I almost fell off the side. And I was holding onto the side of this relatively steep cliff with the loose rocks. And I was pawing around in them trying to get up. And then there were like chimp and human skulls in there. And when I woke up, I could remember the whole dream, as well as the prior dystopian dream with the dehydrated fetus, actually. And then I got the idea for what eventually became the birth of my literature, actually. So yeah, Jane Goodall is unfortunately dead, which is sad because she contributed a shit ton to science over her many years. I think she was doing it since the early 60s or something. When did she start? I think it was, yeah, in 62, that's when she got the Nat Geo thing. I think she started, though, in the late 50s. She was 91 years old, too, so, I guess she had a healthy lifestyle. Pretty cool, actually, when you think about it. Dr. Claw MED, a group of baboons is a congress. Yes, I believe that is the official term, actually, for a group of baboons. Yeah, Jane Goodall was one of the good ones. Didn't really get into politics and stuff. She supported real environmentalism, which makes me give her my respect. She was not a NIMBYist. She actually was the kind of person that would actually plant a tree instead of paying somebody else to do it. So she definitely has my respect. Great person in science. See, that's the sort of person that's the sort of person that females should ascribe to be. And she definitely needs a statue. And we'll probably get one. Gigglebox, turtle soup is delectable. Agreed. You can get it at the Ralph's on the Park down in New Orleans. I strongly suggest that you try it. It's exceptionally good. Cooking Inferno. She was a protege of Dr. Richard Leakey, the anthropologist and evolutionist. Cool lady. Yes, I know. Sigil. You think Jane Goodall ever got lonely in the jungle and got a gorilla to clap her cheeks? Nah, she was married and had a kid and stuff like that. I don't think that she was into chimp fucking. And who cares if she was? Yeah, whatever. Interesting person, though. Lived a very long life, If you get over 90 years old, at that point you're like, oh shit. Nooner Eclipse. Sticks, thoughts on Ann Coulter saying Trump is the most corrupt president in American history? Fuck Jane Coulter. Jane Coulter. I'm getting it mixed up with the other story. Shit. Fuck Ann Coulter. Is it true that Trump enriching himself with NFTs? Well, he did release a couple of NFT lines, but it's nothing that a bunch of other people haven't done, and that sort of has died out at this point. But yeah, Ann Coulter can suck my dick, basically. She's been a sellout from day one, and I warned people of this. Way back, before the Trump administration's first term. I warned people, and I was right, and I still am right. She is a liberal, posing as a conservative, spewing out obviously inane, confusing, in some cases self-contradicting opinions in order to sow chaos because she's being paid by liberal groups. That's the long and short of it. I believe that she's being paid by liberal groups. And if she isn't being paid, then she's getting gypped because she really should be. Ann Coulter's a retard. By the way, what's that lump in your throat, Ann? What is that? Well, I think that there's a medical terminology for it, unless you've got some sort of severe thyroid disorder that might be scrambling your mind and making you say crazy shit. Bobby Bobinson, are you getting paid, Sticks? Yeah, people pay me here for doing this. I get Rumble rants, I get YouTube super chats, I sell books, I get ad revenue on Rumble, though I don't take it on YouTube because I pledged long ago not to. And then I have sponsors. That's where my income comes from. I get $0.00 a month from corporate or political interests. Zero. I'm sure that it must be tempting for some people when they're riding the wave, and don't think that I did not get approached back when things were skyrocketing on the channel. Don't think that they didn't try to corrupt me. They did. They failed. That's why I'm algorithmically demoted, by the way. Cooking Inferno. Ann Coulter would be great in the sack. Who would win in a fuck-off, Ann or Greta? Huh. Yep, okay, there's a question for the, well, male and lesbian female audience. You have to fuck either Greta Thunberg or Ann Coulter. Which one are you choosing? Forest Hill. Yes, you are correct, although it technically goes back even further than that. Although, when I was Stick Sex and Hammer, I was just dicking off, basically. I was posting grindcore music and shit like that. Yeah, I got my first attention making videos about using drugs more than anything else. Yeah, we're having a fuck-off between Ann Coulter and Greta Thunberg. You must choose one. Sigil, Ann and Greta, whose dick do you think is bigger? Coulter. I don't know. Yeah, Greta Thunberg's female. She's just got a rancid personality. Ann Coulter, I don't know. I can't really vouch for her chromosomal content, actually. I just can't. It's impossible. We are. This is a very serious live stream, by the way. We totally have no fun. We're all business all the time. Greta Thunberg's dick. Honestly, yeah, exactly, Moskvich. Never stick your dick in crazy. Gun to head, I think I would choose Thunberg over Coulter. Because, I don't want to fuck in the ass. And you wouldn't be able to fuck Coulter in the vagina because I don't know that she actually has one. I'm not 100% sure that she does. I'm going to Adam's apple too. Mine is smaller than hers. So, just saying. KK, have you played Hex and Sticks? Oh, I loved that game as a kid. Oh, so fucking great. I love Hexen. Maddie J, okay, I'm out. Sorry to talk about Ann Coulter's Y chromosome, Nepal chooses a 2-year-old girl as new living goddess, worshipped by both Hindus and Buddhists. Now, in yesterday's live stream, this was actually mentioned, and I looked into it, and I'm like, this is a little bit weird. The girls are selected between the ages of 2 and 4, and were required to have unblemished skin, hair, eyes, and teeth. They should not be afraid of the dark. During the Indra Jatra festival earlier this month, the former Kumari was wheeled around on a chariot pulled by devotees. The Kumari always wears red, pins up her hair in top knots, and has a third eye painted on their forehead. The week-long Indra Jatra festival was the first of a series of celebrations in October, including Detained, the main festival, and Tihar or Diwali, the festival of lights, which I believe is still marked by which was Tulsi Gabbard, I believe. Tuesday marked the 8th day of Deshane, a 15-day celebration of the victory of good over evil. So that's a positive thing. Offices and schools were closed as people celebrated with their families. By the way, this girl does look adorable. She doesn't seem distressed or anything. This isn't one of those, rapey, religious, cultish things. It's more symbolic, I think. Family, friends, and devotees paraded the new Kumari through the streets of Kathmandu before entering the temple palace, which will be her home for several years. Hey, you're living in a palace and you get everything weighted on you hand and foot. I wouldn't be complaining. Sounds pretty good. She was just my daughter yesterday, but today she is a goddess, her father, Ananta Shakya said, adding that there were already signs she would be a goddess before her birth. My wife during pregnancy dreamed that she was a goddess and we knew she was going to be someone very special. See, that's more heartwarming than anything else. This is more of a symbolic sort of tradition, if anything. Families of the Shakya clan who qualify for the prestigious seat compete to have their daughters selected. The family of the Kumari gains an elevated position in society and within their own clan. Well, good on them. She'll never want for anything in life. Spike, now that I think about it, Ann Coulter sounds like Brianna Wu. Oh, yeah, a little bit. Also remember Moldy Locks and the Berkeley riots when Milo and Ann were speaking there? Commie in the streets, capitalist in the sheets. Yeah, there's an awful lot of intrigue behind content creation. Let's put it that way. But the idea of having some sort of divine feminine symbol is common across many cultures. It is very prevalent in the Eastern cultures more, but you would look like at Norse pagan tradition with Oka and Akka, Lemminkainen and Jotun, and Setpo, Mayo, Shampo, and Aino, and so forth, these various figures, these very symbolic figures. If you've ever watched Midsummer, you would get a feel for, I mean, it's a psychedelically transmogrified version of pagan rites, so it's not exactly historically accurate. But it does touch upon the basic idea. For example, the idea that the old mother, she's lived her life and throws herself from the rocks, and there are various sub-traditions as well. And Varg would, by the way, be correct about that. It is fundamentally similar, though, to some of these traditions. The more innocuous ones, I think, should be celebrated. It's just a tradition. It's something cultural, Diwali and all of these other things. And I think that Hinduism myself is beautiful. I think that Hinduism is quite wonderful. I would love to see India. Oh, bye, King of Biltong. Bye, Anton. I will eat the very, very last bit of Beaufright in your honor. I'll have to crack open the next one tomorrow. Sigilstone. Kathmandu. That's where I'm really going to. If I ever get out of here, I'm going to Kathmandu. I'm sure that that's a song, but I've never heard it, I think. Pallid Mask. Varg's not retarded. He's actually quite wise, and he has a nice family, and he does the survivalism thing, and homesteading, and things like that. I have respect for him. I don't have to respect all of his opinions to respect the basic premise of his lifestyle, and I do. Yeah, you don't have to agree with a person on everything. You simply have to understand that they've got some wisdom to add to the world. And Varg definitely does. He's been through a lot. Mesner Flux. Speaking of deified humans, remember Sai Baba with the legendary afro? Some weird allegations, but also did great public service. Indians are curious. I haven't looked up Sai Baba, actually. I'll have to look it up. Sigilstone is a song by Bob Seger. I think I've got a couple of vinyls by Bob Seger downstairs. I mean, they're not mine. They were my mom's from back in the day. She's an old rocker chick. What can I say? It's funny because me and my mom get along greatly when it comes to music. So it's like a broad plethora of everything, and the tastes are almost exactly the same. So one day you'll want to listen to like AC/DC or Van Halen or Ozzy or something like that. And the next day it's like this weird, obscure like 80s pop. So it's pretty fun. It's a party all the time. Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy. Also a good song. Just saying. Randall Flag. Speaking of Norse mythology, do you believe scholars recently saying there are solid links between paganism and Hinduism? Maybe Indians really were the real Aryans after all. No. I believe that it is actually the reverse of that. I believe that sometime prior to the apex of the Ice Age, the Neanderthal people, which had been forced south further and further by glaciation, lost everything but their oral tradition and the rudiments of the technology that they had had. I believe that they had a stable culture, possibly even Copper Age level, tens of thousands of years ago. They lived a sedentary lifestyle. They had towns and so forth. These were all buried in glaciers. They were forced further and further south, had to continuously migrate. They ended up interbreeding with other groups of people and scattering around the area. And the oral tradition and its facets basically remained. That is that human civilization did begin in Northern Europe. That is my opinion. This is not to disenfranchise any other group of people in the world because it has nothing to do with modernity at all. It just has to do with those scriptural and spiritual traditions and their behavioral traditions. So what I believe is that there was a pre-Ice Age civilization, and it was debilitated, and the Neanderthals that were up there that, they basically just interbred with other groups of people. Debbie Donovan, bottom or top? But you know who bends over. Yeah, I'm only a top, actually. Just saying. It's just the way that I am. Tarred and feathered, Wakanda doesn't exist. It could have. That's the whole point. There could be remains from a contemporary period from that area. When you look, I think that we should look at the rough dating of archaeological remains that still exist. And we should try to trace where people were going around that time and what direction they were going, generally speaking, through migration by rough dating. We should be able to get a sense of who was going where and where they came from. But I don't think that anyone has actually tried to do this. It could actually be very valuable for archaeology, too. Of course, we know that I don't even believe in the term Neanderthals at this point. They were just humans the same as we are. But they interbred with other groups of humans that had diverged, right? And so the breeding picked up. The oral history is transmogrified, but was only partially lost. There would have been a basic understanding of what had happened before, and it would have been passed down through generations. But as we even see with modern folklore, over time, especially in the absence of a writing system, things get lost in translation. They get changed over time. Lemon Curd Zero. Sorry I'm late. Been a very busy morning. Arr, matey. Spider Eternal. There can always be two different human species origins. Stranger things have happened. Possible, however unlikely. I have a feeling that human beings did not even arise in Africa, actually. This is a very unpopular opinion. It doesn't matter. When you say that you don't believe in the out-of-Africa theory, or you think that it's up for conjecture, people will call you racist, unless you happen to be black. But people living 4 or 5 million years ago are not the same as the races as they are categorized today. Just not the same. The local Wendigo. Out-of-Africa theory was disproven a few years ago by a find of older human fossils in Europe. Yes, it appears that it may have been in southeastern Europe and Anatolia, actually, that people generally arose. We're not sure. I mean, we need more evidence. It's going to take hundreds of years to find it, though. A lot of it's been destroyed by now by land development. A lot more will be destroyed on purpose by people who want to maintain the scientific status quo. Cooking Inferno, but sticks, this discounts the importation of deity cults brought from India by Alexander and others being amalgamated into existing pagan faiths in Europe. Yes, absolutely they did. Alexander was also the pharaoh of Egypt and imported a bunch of that. The Romans loved to import. Oh, the military cult was mainly Mithraism there for quite some time. A lot of people don't know anything about these things. I find them fascinating. I could sit there for literally hours reading history textbooks because it's one of my sort of things that I'm interested in. Matt, Cleopatra wasn't even 1% Egyptian. Yes, she was from the Ptolemaic Greek dynasty. But we was Kangs, of course. Spider Eternal, yeah, it's strange how some people jump to racism over archaeology. Inferiority complex much? Yeah, imagine if you find, well, I mean, like, look at Clovis points, for example. The conjecture is that some European diaspora did manage to cross over the edge of the ice sheets, through what is now like Iceland, Greenland, and so forth, into North America. There appears to be relatively solid evidence this did indeed happen. And under any other circumstances, it would be seriously investigated, but it's politically incorrect to do so. Look at the Kensington Stone. They have not disproved the Kensington Stone. They have not found any evidence that it's fraudulent. In fact, they found at least geological evidence. I can't remember the name of the professor, master's degree in geology. He studied some of the flakes from it and determined that the weathering pattern was consistent with something that had been deposited well before the 1800s. I choose to believe that it's probably real. This does not negate, I mean, some people get so sensitive about it. They're like, well, you're claiming that the Norse landed before a bunch of English and Spanish people and stuff. Clearly, you're trying to cheapen the land claims of people who are supposedly natively here simply because they supposedly wandered across the Bering Land Bridge. But that's not really what it is. It's called science. It's called the truth does not care about your feelings. It does not matter. What is true, irrespective of what you happen to wish to be true. That's basically all. Sigil, of course humans arose in Anatolia. That's where the god emperor was born. Yes, I personally believe it was in the general region, encompassing everything from Greece over through Turkey, down through the Levant into Egypt. That area was the original cradle of civilization. But it took a very, very long time before it amalgamated into something that was bigger than that. The Neanderthals came down. They had a civilization, but it was separate for the most part, but they were forced south. They interacted with the groups in that area, which had at least rudimentary technology. Technology was exchanged, genetics were exchanged, they formed a greater union, ironically enough, and then the diaspora poured out across the land, forming what became the Egyptian Empire, Southern European groups moving north, reclaiming that land and becoming those tribes and civilizations as well, out across into Asia, creating the Indus Valley civilization, moving further into China, creating civilization there. It's just the movement of people over time. And sometimes they interbred, and sometimes they got shut off from one another by some calamity or war or something like that. Judas Ben Psash, Göbekli Tepe. Fascinating find, by the way. Originally, they thought it was only one temple, albeit impressive. Now we realize there's like 6 fucking temples. But I choose to believe that the human timeline is considerably different than the orthodox mentality that people have now. For example, look at the In Search Of episode for The Lost Vikings. This was made back in the late 70s. At the time, there was one researcher, and one researcher only, who went to the coast of Canada, what is now Canada, and said, look, I found remains that are similar to a Viking longhouse. It's designed the same, it's ship-shape, we found Norse artifacts here. Clearly somebody was here around that contemporary time period, and people poo-pooed him. They called him conspiracy theorist. We now know that this is absolutely true. It is now canonical. Yes, the Vikings did make it from Greenland to the New World. But this, at the time, was considered completely unorthodox. The idea was Columbus, which is bullshit anyway, and always was, because he never made it to the continental U.S. at all, that he was the one that discovered America. And it was for political reasons. It was because of the large Italian population, and so forth. They didn't want to talk about certain other groups of people that had already actually seen the United States, well, what became the United States. We now know that the Vikings probably did at least sail down further. Vinland could have been around what is now the Mid-Atlantic. That's not entirely sure. Then you've got the Maine Penny, Clovis Points, all of these other archaeological relics that are out of place if you believe the official timeline of archaeology. And it takes a very, very long, ponderous amount of time for these theories to be usurped if they are wrong, or to be proven if they are correct. It takes a very, very long time. Spider Eternal. I laugh at the finders keepers mentality people have, as if that means they own the land forever. What happens if we find out aliens came first? Lol, the goalposts will move, of course. Fucking dumb. And the local Wendigo gifted a subscription to me. Thank you. No, I choose to believe that the human timeline is wrong. I get the sneaking suspicion that it'll be upended over the next century. Just wish I could live long enough to see some of that upending. Those it makes for some good videos, you know. Leo Wolf the Red. Imagine being so ashamed of your ancestors and their culture that you have to chronically steal and claim everyone else's cultures. Pretty sad lately. Yeah, true. H. Horny helmets. Ah, yes, the horned helmet mythology. Supposedly, Vikings always had horns on their helmets. That's not actually the case. I'm sure that some had decorative helmets. Sigil Stone, the greatest archaeological loss will always be the Roman ship off the coast of Brazil that the Brazilian government dumped so much sand and dirt on top of so it could never be dug up. Fucking word I can't say on a YouTube live stream. Yeah, no, I think that the greatest loss is actually during westward expansion in the United States, more than anything else. The mound builder civilization. They built enormous stone and dirt mounds all over the place. Some of these had burial remains, they had other artifacts, and they were effectively quarried off to make room for railroad expansion and settlement expansion. And so all of those relics are basically lost. Now, there's no pedigree to them. There's nothing we can really glean from any of them. There are some remnants, of course, like Serpent Mound. And further south, of course, you've got the petroglyphs. But we don't have nearly as much as we wish that we had with modern technology, which is why we need to lock down these sites and make sure that they are thoroughly and properly excavated. Cooking Inferno. There's even a viewpoint that Quetzalcoatl, which had red hair, may have been a Viking survivor of a failed expedition. Yeah, but then there are also tales of that being aliens, so. The local Wendigo. Look up Welsh Native Americans. Oh yes, I've heard of that theory, like the Irish explorers and stuff. I happen to believe that right here in New England, those stone cairns, which quite clearly are not colonial in manufacture, it wouldn't make any sense. Astronomically aligned, number one. Too small to be like a root cellar or something like that. Wouldn't have served any particular fortification purpose. I think that they were built before European colonization. I believe that either a group of Vikings, possibly, or people from Ireland, this is non-canonical, but at the same time it is spoken of in some histories. I believe that they came to the New World and left a series of monuments behind. I believe that you would find their bodies probably nearby, but we're not allowed to do archaeological research in those zones because the native groups claim them as their own. And you're not allowed to disturb those remains because they're like sacred or some shit. Of course, if you could dig them up, you could tell positively who built them, but you're not allowed to do that. Personally, I think they should just go in and start digging them up anyway and ignore the law on that particular one. Anyways, I'm going to go offline now because I want to docket a little bit more news, and I'm also fucking starving. You know, I eat a little bit of Bovrite, and I just can't help myself. I'm thinking about maybe Indian food tomorrow, actually. You know, it's all good. So yeah, I'm going to go offline. I'm going to do some more docketing. I've still got a couple here, a couple Schultz and Miloka, and we'll see what we can do. And I also need to get to some writing as well. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, and it will be time to do more news. That's about all. Peace out.